Do radiators actually give off radiation? Is the Golden Gate Bridge actually made of silver? All these questions you can find the answer to on This Paranormal Life. Welcome to the podcast. I will be your host for today, Rory Powers, joined by my
What about me?
Okay, sorry, sir, please just wait one more second.
Okay, what about me?
Joined by my rude little host, Kit Greer.
I've become a goblin since you last saw me.
Welcome to the podcast. If this is your first time, what we do is every single week, we investigate a brand new paranormal story, creature, tale, and come to a conclusion within the hour, deciding whether or not it is in fact the truth.
That's right.
It's not easy. We make it look easy.
That's right.
We make it look like we're a couple of hacks in a living room sitting down, spouting nonsense into a couple of microphones. But there's years of research behind us.
I mean, there's a reason why this is a audio-only format, because our faces are weathered and old. We've aged extremely prematurely.
Yeah. You ever seen Benjamin Button?
Yeah.
I was born old. A baby, but old. I don't know how that works. Wait, was he born a baby but old?
He was...
Or did he pop out a man?
Did he pop out an old man?
Did the woman just explode? Like, how is that happening? We're getting off topic here.
Ta-da!
We've covered a lot. But look, let me give you a taste for it. I've got a little synopsis written out.
Please do. This like the blurb.
Set a mood.
Okay.
It's 7:30, November 5th, 1975. Police Chief Chuck Ellison gets a panicked phone call from a man reporting a missing person. Now, presumably this isn't the first time Chief Ellison has gotten a missing persons report, but this is different because the man says he needs to meet with Ellison immediately.
Because Ellison wants to blow this thing off, really. Like, he wants to be home in like 15.
Sure, missing person, yeah.
I think
I'm about to be a missing person from my office. You're a terrible police chief.
Tell you what, I'll meet you in half an hour if you bring 6 packs of Lucky Strike, all right, and half a bottle of Jack Daniels.
No, you don't understand. There's been a murder. Yeah, I'm about to murder this Corona at about 10 past.
Is that a surfboard in your office? What kind of police chief is this? So reluctant to work.
Ellison gets in his car and drives to a nearby shopping center to meet with the caller. When he arrives, he finds a group of men, some crying, some in shock, just sitting there, pale as ghosts.
Jesus.
Now, these men were part of a logging crew who had been working that night out in the woods before they called in about the missing person. Ellison finally gets one of the men to talk, and he explains what happened that night, that their friend, Travis Walton, wasn't just missing. He'd been abducted. Whoa.
They use the A word.
The A word.
And let me just, as you said, these guys were logging. These ain't no, like, you know, fancy pants, Silicon Valley, like up in the clouds guys.
Absolutely.
These are men of the earth.
Hard, trustworthy
earth people.
Trustworthy,
Mud
let's hang on to
people.
that word, trustworthy men doing hard, trustworthy
They
work.
probably have freaking PhDs for all we know.
Yeah,
They're
pretty
probably
huge
smart
dinguses.
as hell. That's not what that means. You
What?
know that, right?
I got a PhD.
Yeah, but what you said or what it really means?
I know what a PhD means. You think you know what it means. Let's say it on 3.
Okay.
All right? 1, 2, 3. A hog.
Pretty huge dingus.
So we're on the same page.
Touché.
One of the reasons I wanted to investigate this story is because it's not just a great paranormal story.
Yes,
it's
sir.
actually a really great mystery as well.
Okay.
It unravels in a really romantic way. There's so much going on that you're just ripping your hair out trying to find the answers.
You're really selling this to me. I think our listeners are in for a treat here.
I honestly think this podcast could be the next Serial. I think this is Serial right now. I'm going to be serialing this episode.
Like,
Because I'm going to be serialing.
yeah.
You know, it's going to be, a bit more serious tone, gentle voices.
Get our NPR voices out.
I don't want you to think that you can't interrupt. So please do interrupt, but
Okay.
also just don't talk over me at any given point.
Okay.
So it's again.
just to make it.
No, that's fine.
Uh-huh.
Again, feel free to interrupt, but just don't talk over. Just don't say anything.
Don't talk over you.
No. I want this to be an open zone.
I know, just as straightforward.
Okay, yeah, but if you could just please
no
stop
problem,
talking
bro.
over me. So, what's gonna be? You need to shut the up, man.
Whoa.
Sorry, I lost my cool. I don't know if they do that in Serial. I reckon they cut that shit out.
I think they do, actually.
This is me setting up the episode.
Yes, sir.
A group of men enter the frosty Arizona woods, and one man does not return. Could this be the result of extraterrestrial interference or something much, much more sinister?
From what's more sinister than extraterrestrial?
Again, could you not interrupt?
Okay, dude.
What's more sinister than what? Murder?
Then extraterrestrial intervention.
Oh, yeah, I see that. That's actually pretty freaking sinister. Now that I read it, yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Again, please let me Serial.
Okay, got it.
From TPL and GG Easy, this is the disappearance of Travis Walton. Play the music there, the Serial music.
David.
No, don't play that. We will get sued. Don't do the Serial music. Let's start our journey. The year is 1975. It's Wednesday, November 5th. In the wintry town of Snowflake, Arizona. It's real.
Not a real
Definitely real. A group of men who had been contracted to work in the woods as loggers, essentially, were out in the cold Arizona forest. Among these men were Rogers and Walton, two best friends who had known each other for years. Along with them was other crew members called Ken Peterson, John Goulette, Steve Pierce, Alan Dallas, and Dwayne Smith. Repeat them back to me, please.
That's a lot of names.
Sir, repeat them back to me. I want to make sure you're getting all this.
It's almost as if you're trying to drive home how real this is.
And the town, the name of the town?
I'm just imagining these like burly loggers from the Midwest, and it's like, Nancy, I think I'm going to be gone all winter. Well, Chuck offered me a job up in Snowflake, Arizona. I thought you were logging in Cupcake this weekend. No, Snowflake this year.
It does sound like a place you would make up to just get away from the wife and kids. Yeah. It's like, where are you working this week? I'm working in, looks out the window, Snowflake town. And what are you going to be doing? Looks at the fireplace, logging.
Is washing up at the same time. It's like, we're going to be at Splash Mountain this weekend.
So the job that they were doing out there was huge. It was one of the biggest contracts they'd ever been given.
Oh boy.
Which unfortunately meant the project was delayed, meaning the men would usually have to work from 6 a.m. to sunset every day to try and catch up.
Jesus Christ.
That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of hard, honest, trustworthy work. So on November 5th, the sun was setting after a hard, honest, truthful day of logging. The men packed up their gear and hopped into Roger's truck for the long drive back to Snowflake.
People don't live like this. This is a Budweiser
Look, I know
ad.
this sounds like a children's book, but you just gotta stick with me, okay?
It's just my childlike voice selling it that way.
And my elvish ears. My long blonde hair. Yes, I am cosplaying an elf.
And your 3'5" stature, sir. You've shrunk since I've last seen you.
I know it's a real place. You're just gonna have to trust me. I'm a paranormal investigator. You think I'd make shit up?
I only do it for cashola.
Yeah. Or to sell a book or a novel or a podcast.
But I haven't got a book deal yet.
And this podcast doesn't make podcash. So it would all be factual information today.
The day that you see Rory wearing a Rolex is the day that he's made up some heavy duty shit.
I feel like you're tainting my cerealing with your poison. So if
kind
you
of
could
dragging it down.
Zip it. If you could hush, shut it, but feel free to chip in
the
at any
handcuffs
given
necessary?
moment. They're driving down from the foresty roads when all of a sudden they see a bright light coming from behind a hill in front of them.
Okay.
Strange.
Probably a car. Could be anything.
In front of the hill?
A big car.
A giant flying car with aliens in it. You've gone. He's lost it.
Foreign aliens? It's a goddamn Mexican plane.
I know we should have built the wall. It won't help. I'm at the sky wall.
Wouldn't stop aliens. I mean the space walls.
Who is this guy?
In a box.
Who is this character?
Just put me in a coffin.
This sounds like a racist paranormal conspiracist.
The worst person that could exist.
Ever exist. So Rogers, driving the car, he takes it down the path, following the light. And it wasn't long before they found the source.
Oh.
Rogers stopped the car. Hovering over their heads was a gigantic, mechanic, silver disc shining brightly in the night sky.
What?
We're not messing around here, people.
What?
We're diving straight in here.
It is minute. We're in like the early stages of this podcast, and you're telling me that there is a saucer in Snowflake, Arizona?
In the trustworthy town of Snowflake.
Best kept town, 2013 through 2015.
At this point, Rogers has stopped the truck, and the men are all just staring at it. It's like they're hypnotized.
I mean, for real.
But that's when Walton gets out of the truck. He starts walking towards the disc like he's in a trance. You know, it's weird. The other men start yelling at him to come back, but he doesn't stop. He just keeps walking towards the disc.
Wow.
He continues to approach it until he's directly underneath it, just looking up at it in awe. I mean, it must be the most incredible thing you've ever seen. He's not high.
Sucks. Take me with you. I swear to God, I'm out here logging 12 hours a day. I'm losing my mind.
The ship takes off in fear. No!
It's the silence of Walton just being like, you know, guys, I didn't really mean any of that stuff. Whenever I said I hated everyone around me.
And then they're like, oh, it looks like the ship actually just stopped over there. Oh, shit! Boys, wait! He's gone. So he's just standing there, looking up at the object. And that's when the ship begins to make a humming noise, like a large turbine. You can feel it in the air.
Whoa.
At this point, the other men start panicking. They start screaming for Walton to step away, but he doesn't. He's just looking up at it.
Damn.
Until the ship begins to wobble gently from side to side.
Right?
This is when Walton slowly begins to step away from the disc.
The wobbling is where we drew the line. The disc I can take. The lights I can take. The humming I can take.
The wobble? Hell no.
Are you shitting me? You know what else wobbles? A rattlesnake. They like to wobble and
rattle.
They're poisonous
they
as
don't
shit.
Wobble.
They wobble
That'd
very
be a wobble
quickly.
Snake. Sir.
I believe the Latin name for the rattlesnake is actually Wobblus wobblus.
I'll actually look it up. I have an encyclopedia of snake poop.
Don't look it up.
I will wobble so hard on you if you touch that book. As Walton slowly begins to step away from the disc, a beam of blue light shoots down and strikes his body, blasting him backwards through the air.
Like a laser beam? Is that what's happening?
Essentially, until he just lays there limply on the ground.
Oh, shit.
Again, so this is the story that they are telling to Ellison, who has met them that night, the night of the missing person. Then his body begins to rise upwards towards the ship.
Just like anti-grav just starts floating up?
Yeah.
I guess.
Let's pause right there. What are you thinking so far?
This is fantastical, far-fetched.
Exactly.
Frankly, ridiculous, preposterous.
Right.
But also true and real.
I really want you to hone in on that. Well, think about this, okay? So, I mean, this is a story. It sounds ludicrous. Yeah. But this police chief has met with a group of, 5-6 men, all with the exact same story, crying, white as ghosts, in absolute panic.
Yeah.
Insisting that this is what they all just witnessed.
So let's just put ourselves in this situation.
Exactly.
You're the police officer. What is your first thought? Bearing in mind, you're go
on.
You're head in the clouds police officer. You've been dealing with cold hard facts since day one of police academy. Okay. Yeah. So I'm thinking if I was Mr. Ellison, is that the gentleman's name?
Ellison, yes.
I'd be thinking these logging boys probably cracked Walton over the head with a shovel, and now they're trying to cover up their trails with some flimsy UFO case. Is that what they're bringing to me right now?
It does seem a little weird if you had murdered a man to go straight to aliens. Not like there was an accident, or he just wandered off, or we lost him in a blizzard. Straight to, we legit saw him get blasted by a beam and taken on board a spaceship.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know what you mean. It's not intuitive.
Yeah.
But people do crazy things.
Yeah. That's a really bad excuse for any of this.
It's also in my other podcast.
People do crazy things. It's more just me audio vlogging my stealth, stealing shit around London.
It's usually topped and tailed, not so much by podcast advertisements as me railing crack live on the episode.
We're gonna. I think actually you have a little demo here of episode 1, so you can check it out here. So I'm in the city of London today in the new shopping mall. We're just outside the jewelry store here, so I'm just gonna approach it, look nonchalant.
Hello, sir. Can I help you there?
Yeah. Oh, hi. I was looking for a new watch for my wife.
Could you possibly take off the scarf, sir? I can't really see your face.
No, my wife is scared of my own mouth, so I have to wear it at all times. Could you look over there for a second, please?
What's over there?
Jeez! Grab his shit! Welcome to People Do Crazy Things! Welcome to episode 1 of People Do Crazy Shit!
Someone stop that man!
Oh, they nicked me! Oh, for one and only episode!
The jeweler runs up to your bleeding out body. He goes, Jesus, people really do crazy things.
Alright, so at this point, we've come full circle. See what I'm doing here? I'm serialing. I'm trying to serial us.
You keep using that. I mean, I think the more you use that word to describe it, it's kind of like you can't use the word to describe a word.
This is a serial.
I think the more you say
I'm serialing.
It makes it less like cereal, I would say.
Brunch, then? Perhaps.
So confused about what cereal is. Not a meal, really.
So we're back at where our story started. It's 7:30, November 5th, approximately an hour after the abduction. And one of the men calls the police chief to report that one of the logging crew is missing. Police Chief Ellison meets the crew that night at a nearby shopping center, as we said, to hear what happened. They tell him the whole story. Now, as we discussed, Ellison was obviously skeptical, but he said later on, quote unquote, if they were acting, they were awfully good at it.
Ooh.
Now, Ellison really doesn't know what to do about this. I mean, what would you do? What can you do? Either he's been abducted and he's gone, or they've murdered him, and you now need to, by yourself, place all of these men under arrest.
Yep.
He eventually notifies his superior, passing the blame, like the hack that he is.
I'm telling you, he's trying to get off, go surfing. Hit some of those sweet snowflake
gnarly
waves.
Snowflake waves that Snowflake is
dude.
known for. I love the irony of Snowflake being known for its golden sandy beaches and roasting hot summers.
Probably gets pretty cold around here. Not really.
Nope. Isn't it weird that Iceland's green and Greenland's ice?
Wow, we've never seen a drop of snow in 200 years. It's actually named for its lack of snow.
Yeah, it's a more ironic thing. Anyway, don't go down to town no stab, because it gets pretty violent.
Safest city in the Midwest. Do you mean that? Nope.
Literally? No. Metaphorically? Also no. I'm sorry to inform you. You've been missold this travel package. Now give me your keys. This is the first guy you meet when you go to Snowflake.
We use opposites to keep our spirits up.
Because it is so blistering hot here in Snowflake. We've gone mad.
Blisteringly hot.
Oh. Alright, so he notifies his superior, Sheriff Malling Gillespie, who, after hearing the story from Ellison, says to keep the crew there. Obviously, something doesn't seem right about the situation.
Smart.
Yeah, it's smart. That's why he's the superior.
That's right.
So Gillespie arrives and interviews the men, and they tell him the exact same story that they just told Ellison. And afterwards, Rogers, who was driving the truck at the time, insists that they go back out into the woods that night and look for Walton.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, this takes a bit of convincing because obviously it's late and the men are shook up. Eventually, Rogers and a few of the other men and police officers head back out into the woods to look for Walton.
Yeah.
A few of the other men were apparently too upset to help in the hunt, so they just went back to Snowflake to relay the information of what happened to Walton to presumably his loved ones and
Slackers.
family. Yeah,
Slackers
cowards.
and cowards. Yeah.
Slackers and cowards. So the crew that went out to look for him reached the woods and began searching, scouting the area for any trace of Walton or what had happened. But after hours of searching, they turn up completely empty-handed.
Okay.
No sign of Walton, but also no physical evidence at all of anything from the crew's story.
I'm so surprised that you said that, Rory.
There was no ship debris? There were no alien eggs in the woods? What?
It is kind of, again, coming back to the point of view of these police officers, interesting position to be in, being taken back to the scene of the crime, kind of.
Yeah.
But also, again, you're not really sure about these guys, so you're like, am I just being led astray? I'm sure there's a lot of like kind of double guessing in your head.
It's tough, and this is why I'm trying to serial from both sides. So, the officers at the scene start to get a little bit on edge.
Yeah.
Right? You got this group of men out here who claim their friend just disappeared with no evidence to back it up.
Yeah.
If Walton was still out here lost in the woods, with the temperature at this time of the year, it wouldn't be long before he had hypothermia.
Wow,
So,
okay.
He's not lasting long out here by himself in any condition.
Yes, understood.
By the morning of November 6th, the entire area where Walton had gone missing had been searched by volunteers and officials. Still, there was no trace of him anywhere.
I'll tell you where they didn't search. Up.
Up!
2 letters for you. Up.
Y'all want to know where Walton went? Yeah, if you have any information. Points. Points straight up.
Can you please speak that for the record for this recording? Straight up. Maybe to a slight angle, but mostly up.
Some things men will never know what angle he departed this earth, but we do know he went up.
Lord
the velocity also unknown, but direction up.
Looking into the night sky, every one of them little twinkly stars up there, a lost soul. That's not how it works, right?
I think it is. Anyway, you guys want to buy some weed?
We are literally police.
Shit, man, I didn't see that.
I was too busy
He's looking up
up.
the whole time. He doesn't see anyone. Then walks away, hits a tree. Damn it. Damn it.
This is some good loud.
He's gonna be dead tomorrow. We should look for him now. Still, there was no trace of him anywhere. At this point, the police are keeping their eyes on the loggers who were present when Walton disappeared. They're starting to believe this entire story could possibly be to cover up a homicide. And at this point, that's the only logical explanation. Maybe it was done in a fit of rage. They've almost convinced themselves that it was an accident. Or they've led them to a place they know he won't be.
Yeah.
So they can look like they're helping to search for the body.
They're also one of the only people in society who are, outside of horror movies, allowed to wield chainsaws.
Yeah.
And axes.
Yeah. And those are pretty decent murder weapons, I would say.
They're pretty up there. Yeah. I mean, they're definitely...
Katana number 1, obviously.
So samurais would definitely be better at murdering, but I think the samurai was kind of laid off a long time ago. In terms of modern day jobs, pretty up there.
So Rogers and Sheriff Copland go back to Snowflake to tell Walton's mother what's happened.
Oh, Jesus. Hardest part of their job.
Anyway, Roger tells her what's happened, and, you're assuming that she's going to be shocked and heartbroken at this news. But instead, she simply asks, I guess I'll give her an old woman voice. Has anyone except the police and eyewitnesses heard about this story? It's a weird response.
Interesting.
Isn't it? Yeah. Like, you've just been told your son was abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
Most likely by the
Presumed
man
dead.
who has murdered your son if he
Yes.
hasn't been abducted. And your response is, does anybody else know?
Oh, is he just up again? Should be back any minute.
Which, I don't know, it's weird. I guess maybe for the sake of your family and the legacy of your son, maybe you don't want that to be a public thing. So you're like, does anyone else know about this? Because this is...
I guess.
Weird? I think it's a weird response.
It's an extremely weird response. I mean, you're like, your brain would just not go there. I mean,
Yeah.
You'd just be distraught. So
Walton's mother wants to make sure that this story doesn't spread too far.
Yeah.
That's absolutely what happens. By Saturday, the tale of Walton's abduction has spread internationally. The town of Snowflake is filled with news reporters, tourists, and paranormal investigators.
I'm just imagining. She's like, does anyone else know about this? I would like to keep this on the down low. And the police officer is just remembering back to about half an hour previous across a PA system across the town at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
There is a man presumed abducted by alien graves. Stay in your homes. I cannot stress this enough. They will return for us all. Thank you, good night. But at the minute, they've only returned for Travis Walton, who lives at 83 Snowflake Lane, Twinkletown. Their family would like privacy at this time.
So all of these people have now come to Snowflake trying to figure out what happened to Walton, trying to crack this mystery.
Yeah.
So one of the visitors was Fred, never said this name before,
Okay.
Sylvanus. Sylvanus. He is I'm going to call him Fred. That's easier. His first name's Fred. I'm not making up a name for him.
I'm going to call him Joe. You call everyone Joe.
Shut up, Joe. He's a UFO investigator who arrived in Snowflake and began interviewing the various loggers who were there when Walton disappeared.
Okay, cool.
Now, Fred was obviously trying to gather information about the events that took place so that he could possibly build a time frame in his mind of what happened that night, what happened to Travis Walton.
Understood.
Now, the little details were important here. For example, I'm going to serial a bit here again. Did any of the crew have any personal problems with Walton?
Of course.
Was there any tension between workers prior to the disappearance?
I mean, really questions that the police should have been asking.
Yeah, but they wanted to hang 10 in the golden beaches of Snowflake.
We're talking chief and goddamn constable on the same board.
Yeah. Turns out there was tension.
Oh.
One of the workers, Alan Dallas, allegedly had a nasty temper and had come close to fighting other members of the crew on numerous occasions.
Oh.
Suspect number 1. Dwayne Smith was known for his inexperience that often put the rest of the crew at risk.
Okay.
Suspect number 2. And while they were good friends, it's important to note that Walton actually dated Roger's sister, Dana.
That's what I'm saying.
So already, we're seeing possible motives for the crew to be involved in the disappearance. It's not looking good for the crew at this point. They all have something that could be a reason behind Walton's disappearance.
Although the dating Mrs. Dana,
Yeah.
I feel like that one's kind of tenuous. I mean, is that really grounds to kill someone?
Well, I think it's worth noting. It's important information in this case. I think it's something to flag up. It is worth saying that Rogers and Walton had been friends for years. Years and years.
Yeah.
So, aside from the possibility that Rogers didn't like Walton dating his sister and wanted him gone, or maybe Walton wasn't treating her right. You know, it's weird. It's hard, but it's important information to nail down in this serial. One thing, this is really interesting. One thing that Fred also found troubling was the contract that the crew had been working. Now, remember what I said at the start of the story? Rogers and his workers were massively behind schedule.
Okay.
They've been working from 6 a.m. to sunset every day.
Yeah.
At the rate they were going, they were never going to finish in the contracted time. Now, because of Walton's disappearance and the days of searching that follow, Rogers and his men were unable to complete the contract with the Forest Service.
Okay.
The disappearance had completely shifted the focus from them failing to complete the project.
Interesting.
Yeah, and as I said, this was the biggest contract they'd ever landed before.
Yeah.
They'd been working with the Forest Service for years, and all of a sudden they can't fill this contract. And as it approaches the deadline, one of the crew disappears and derails everything. That's definite motive. If you've got someone in the logging crew that you do not like, and you need to find a way out of this, you get the whole town out into the woods, making work impossible for you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny, though, to think of a time. I think everyone who's listening can think of a time in their careers when they've been really pushed to the wire on a project, on a deadline, on some sort of report. I'd like to know, by a show of hands, how many people considered faking their... You, sir.
Yes, my hand is raised.
I didn't
I
actually
assume
get
you're
to
talking
finish.
of murder, though.
No.
Oh. I'll slowly drop that.
Sheriff, get in here.
No!
He admitted to it. But I was going to say, how many people have considered faking their own death to get out of a project?
Well, I guess, like, faking your own death requires a huge change in your life.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just a huge change permanently in someone else's.
Very permanently. So let's rephrase that. You've got a huge report due. Mm-hmm. You and a colleague. You kill the colleague.
Yeah.
To take the heat off the report that was due.
Yeah. Like, when you're thinking about a school project, this is a contract possibly worth hundreds of thousands of pounds.
But I mean, what happens if you renege on a contract? I mean, I guess that it discredits your firm, I suppose, which could be a financial sort of suicide.
Exactly. Well, this is it. Now, if they ever want to work with the Forest Service, which I assume, I don't know how many services there are in the forest. Yeah. I'm assuming one, and it's them.
It's like .com.
And if you're a logger, you should have the forest on your side. I think that's Logger 101.
That's true. There's a limited number of trees out there, okay, people?
There really are. And we need to cut more of them down.
Frankly.
So, these are the questions we have to ask ourselves. Could Walton have been murdered by his own crew, either for personal reasons or to cover up their work problems? And if they did, why such an elaborate story?
Absolutely. That's what I'm wondering.
It's weird. It's a lot confusing. So it didn't take long before there were growing suspicions among the community and the police that it seemed like the rest of the loggers had been involved with Walton's disappearance.
Okay.
It obviously seemed much more likely that Walton had just been killed brutally, on purpose or by accident, that he was abducted by aliens.
Yeah, at this point, the believability of your alibi, really, that's where the rubber hits the road. It's got to be, you've got to have a believable alibi. And they kind of fluffed it on that one, I think.
Well, at least they're like, hey, solidarity though, that'll show them. We'll all say it's an alien. It's like,
I guess.
Yeah, you could try it.
Yeah. It's going to be their word against our word. Well, what about their word against 6 words?
Yeah. And then the police chief shows up and it's just like, I told you, aliens. Do we believe them, chief? I don't know. There are 6 of them.
They could beat us up.
So Rogers and the rest of his crew are brought to the Arizona Department of Public Safety and administered a polygraph test. We're getting some science behind this thing.
Debatable, but yeah, some sort of machine anyway.
Exactly. Now this would hopefully prove once and for all that the story told by the crew is real or it's false.
Could you please, for the listeners at home, the dum-dums who don't know what do you call it?
Polygraph.
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with them, but for the people who aren't,
right?
If you could just,
you know what it is, but I'll say it, and then you'll tell me if I know what it is.
Yeah.
A polygraph is the technical term for a lie detection test. The test was administered by Cy Gibson, who honestly just got straight to the point. He asked these questions. I don't know why he's German, but I'm going to make him German. Have you or any of the crew ever caused any harm to Mr. Walton? Do you know where Mr. Walton's body is buried? Did you see a UFO the night Mr. Walton disappeared? Now, obviously, all of the men denied hurting or knowing who had hurt Walton. They also denied knowing where his body was, but every single member of the crew insisted that they had seen a UFO that night.
Okay.
The results of the polygraph test concluded that every member of the crew was telling the truth.
Okay. So basically the little polygraph, their like heart rates, their like the sweat in their brow, it was all totally flat. They were like cool as cucumbers.
Cool as cucumbers. The official quote from the report stated, "These polygraph examinations prove that these 5 men did see some object that they believed to be a UFO, and that Travis Walton was not injured or murdered by any of these men on that Wednesday."
What do you make of that? Because polygraphs are, I believe, no longer admissible in court in most countries.
Yeah, because I think the accuracy rate is 93%.
Is it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, see, I'm saying that I thought they were not admissible anymore because they were not deemed to be.
Well, I think
accurate.
7% is enough of a range of error.
Okay, you can't.
But I'm fairly sure that it is.
Hang someone.
Yeah.
On the basis of.
Let me check. I do want to know this, like going forward.
It would just be interesting. It definitely.
My last Google search was LeBron James. I just want everyone on the podcast to know that. Second one down. How to play like LeBron James. LeBron James workout diet.
What did LeBron eat to get that tall?
Become tall, quote unquote, LeBron James. Okay, so proponents will say the test is about 90% accurate. Critics will say it's about 70% accurate.
So it's actually pretty accurate. God damn.
I mean, either way, yeah. I mean, obviously 70% accurate still leaves a lot of room for error.
Absolutely,
but, yeah, 90 to 70% accuracy with the testimony of multiple men, all concluding in the exact same way.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, once you start like multiplying those probabilities, it's like you're left with a pretty small chance that they're lying.
So after the polygraph test, Sheriff Gillespie made a public announcement that he honestly believed the abduction really happened.
Wow.
Saying there's no doubt they're telling the truth.
This is the 70s, people.
What do you do at this point? Because you can't... These men have passed the polygraph test, which at the time was the only way to tell whether someone was lying or telling the truth. Mm-hmm. They have their, I guess, an alibi that you kind of have to believe them because there's no one else to testify against them. So what do? You kind of... They're off the hook.
There's absolutely no evidence.
No, they can't find any source.
He hasn't turned up anywhere.
No.
Yeah. You kind of just got to take their fingerprints and they're like, all right, well, unless a body turns up in a river in the next 3 years.
Yeah, I guess like keep an eye on the crew.
Yeah.
It's not a good situation to be in because you're probably living in this quite close snowflake community with these men who have possibly murdered their friend. So at this point, it's 5 days after the incident took place. The police have stopped searching for Walton. Because of the crew's testimonies and polygraph exam results, none of them are considered suspects in the disappearance. The investigation is at its end. Either Walton truly was abducted by aliens, as the men claimed, or Walton's dead and no one can be prosecuted. Flash forward. It's 12:05 a.m. on November 10th. Walton's sister is sleeping peacefully with her husband Grant when the phone rings. Now Grant, who is Walton's brother-in-law, wakes up and answers the phone, curious to find out why someone's calling after midnight. Grant answers the phone. Hello? There's a moment of silence until he hears a voice shouting on the other side of the phone. They brought me back! Travis Walton was alive! Oh! And that's the end of this week's podcast.
Oh, dude, you're killing me here.
Oh.
Good googly moogly.
Sorry to end on a cliffhanger like that, guys.
Oh,
but
don't be sorry. This is a crazy story.
It's a good story. This crazy mystery, this insane disappearance.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, God, got chills.
We got so many things to work out. We got to figure out where he's gone, why his mum was such a creep.
Yeah, there's so many things. And if you think there's weird stuff happening in this episode, Jesus Christ, we're going up next week. It is going to get so weird and bananas, but again, like, there's a reason why people say this is one of the most interesting alien abductions of all time.
This is crazy. I've never even heard of this. This is amazing.
I know. What a, like, gem to stumble across. So I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. And next week, we will be back on Tuesday to conclude our story and find out what happened in the disappearance of Travis Walton. Thank you for listening.